Good evening, everybody. This is Mike with On Point Preparedness coming to you with another live stream. There has been a lot of stuff that has happened over the past 2 days. And so this video is going to be more like a vlog. Not going to really be getting into anything too heavy. I just want to talk to you about some of my experiences with some of the things that are going on. So we're going to talk about what I've seen unfold in my own state and in my own personal life. I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of the current climate in the news, some things that I'm foreshadowing that may happen in the future. Talk a little bit about faith as it applies to all of this. And then lastly, and most importantly, we are going to talk a little bit about some preps, because I'm always wanting people to stay one step ahead of things. Actually, that's sort of a good place to start. Just talking about being one step ahead of things and how it applies to preparedness with the current situation and how it applies to faith. Many of you who have been a subscriber to my channel for quite a while now, you've sort of heard this spiel, but I just want to say it one more time. There's a lot of people that disagree with preparedness. They say it's a lack of faith. They say you shouldn't be doing it. I'm getting a lot of flack for that. I know some of my other fellow Christians who are saying this as well. They're getting outright attacked about it. And so my response is, we have biblical examples of preparation. We have lots of biblical examples of preparation. But mostly, the way I've tried to balance this out for everyone is, do according to what your faith says. If you don't have the means to prepare, then you're going to be counting on your faith. Or if you do have some means, but you have a strong conviction not to, then don't. But for those who have a strong conviction to do so, by all means, act according to your faith and prepare. And so that is what I'm doing, is acting out my faith. And I am incredibly blessed. I am incredibly blessed to get emails from people saying, and, not tooting my own horn or anything like that by any means, because it's not just me saying to prepare. There's a lot of other channels saying to prepare. But specifically the timing of when I said to prepare for certain things, incredibly blessed to get some emails from people saying, you know what, I listened to your last show. We needed some of X, Y, and Z, whether it was food or whatnot. For example, everyone was focused on toilet paper and focused on some other things, but no one was touching the food. And I was saying, hey, listen, the food's going to be next. And then what happens today? Right across the United States, everyone rushes the stores. And so I just get these emails saying, thank God that I was able to listen to your video and get prepared, and I feel comfortable. I am not in a state of fear or panic or anything, and I'm just blessed by that. And so I'm just wanting to continue that. I want to keep people safe. I have a strong conviction that, this is sort of the path that the Lord is working on me with everything that I've done for preparedness before I became saved, as well as getting saved and being blessed with being able to teach certain ministry topics. It just sort of is compounding now into just one sort of mission statement for me. So we are going to continue, this preparation theme. But again, act out according to your faith. A really good example of this is, if we think about medicine, there are some people that don't want to take medicine, regardless of what type of ailment they have. They have a strong conviction. It is their faith that they don't want to take medicine, and that's what the Lord is telling them. And whether they're healed or whether they are not healed, they put full faith in the Lord. Okay, I'm not going to argue with your faith. However, there's other people that will take medicine and that will undergo significant surgeries and will utilize the hospitals and the doctors to their fullest ability. But all the way through, they're praising God. They're thanking God for the physicians. They're thanking God for the nurses. And so whether we live or whether we die, as long as it's done unto the Lord, you're acting out your faith. And so I really think about that as it applies to preparedness as well. You know what? If you have the faith to say, I need to prepare, then please prepare. If you don't have the means or you don't want to, then don't. Act according to your faith. But know that each way that you go, it may be challenged in certain areas, which I've covered before. There's a lot of different things that could happen to you where you prepare and everything's taken away from you. Are you still going to have faith? Or you have a strong conviction to not prepare, and then you're stuck in a situation like we are today, and there's nothing in the grocery stores well, your faith is going to be tested. So to each and every one, whether we live, whether we die, the choices that we make, we live according to our faith. And so be kind to your brothers and sisters, regardless of where they stand. That's all I'm really asking. So with all that being said, I am just very blessed. Some of the things that I've been saying is there was a definitive need for masks. It hadn't quite hit the United States at all. This was mostly contained to South Korea and China. I was like, you know what? Go to Home Depot, go to Lowe's, get yourself a mask. I did so as well. And I picked up, I didn't clean out the shelf or anything like that, but I got a couple, for each of my family members. And then it was like 2 days later, all gone. The next thing that I had mentioned was there was the run on hand sanitizer. I was like, okay, take a step back. Look, 70% isopropyl alcohol and hydrogen peroxide and bleach, those are still there. For whatever reason, people aren't going for them. And so there was some time for you guys to prepare. And then sure enough, that all got cleaned off the shelves. And then I noticed no one's going after the food. Everyone's still going after the hand sanitizers, the toilet paper, all of that. Please make sure you're stocking away some food. And then we have just state by state by state by state closing down schools, potential quarantines, National Guards instituted in, I think, 6 different states now. I've been sent a ton of pictures, and I'm sure anyone who has a Facebook account has seen just the massive amount of pictures of Costco's, Sam's, Kroger's, IGA's, all these stores are completely cleared out of food this time. And I know people personally in my life that were just absolutely stunned by this. Neighbors that are Christian and know that I was preparing and know that I was telling them to prepare. Just whitewashed faces. Very, very nervous, very frantic, very fearful. Never expected this thing to happen in their grocery store. And in all honesty, for the people that said that myself and everyone else that was preparing were doing so in a state of fear and we weren't trusting in the Lord, it's actually quite the opposite. I was able to go into stores and get what I needed on a daily basis, a little here, a little there, and I was quite comfortable walking through the aisles at a nice pace. The people today, speeding through the parking lot, hightailing it through the aisles, waiting in huge long lines, getting in fights, that is a spirit of fear. And that is what we were trying to prevent. And so it's just counterintuitive to think that anyone that was preparing beforehand was living so in a spirit of fear, yet a little bit of hypocrisy comes by because once the aisles start to get raided, then everyone's panicking and fighting. Actually, that's a video I think we're going to start with. This is a video that's trending right now on social media. And I'm just going to switch on over to that for you guys. But it's just sad. It's just sad. Really, a lot of this video is going to focus on just the Antichrist spirit, the flesh. I mean, this is really just the flesh and how this is going to increase and some of the mechanisms for why it's going to increase. But let me just go ahead and I'm going to increase my volume. And I mean, just look at what this is going on. I think this is a Costco or Sam's, obviously a big box store.
Yeah, she had to wait. I said, you let me get in my car. No, she had to wait. Go. Listen. That's a woman. Go too.
He was nasty. I'm being nice.
And it's really like Black Friday.
All right, cool. No problem. All right. Well, listen. We gotta listen. As human beings, we gotta come together at a time like this. So I need you guys to calm down. It's all right, love. She's not gonna touch you with the car.
I'll tell you what. I mean, this what is that? Sam's or Costco? Do pray for all the people that are still working in the grocery stores. Definitely the frontline healthcare workers. Do pray for them because they didn't sign up for this. Especially the people that are working these stores that are not getting nearly the amount of money to have to deal with things like this. Do keep them in your prayers because they are getting put in harm's way. There is an infection going around. They are being surrounded by lots of people. And I'm sure a lot of them are just frustrated versus, healthcare workers, which by no means do they have an easy job. You can see just how stressed the nurses and doctors in Italy and China are if you've seen some of those personal account videos. But again, they are getting paid a little bit more. Definitely not nearly as much as what the situation calls for. But do keep them all in your prayers. But this is the spirit of fear, and you don't want to go there. The flesh wants to go there. But if you were just prudent, if you were just prudent beforehand, you wouldn't have to get to this point. Now that I say that, I was actually going to include something else in this video. I wish I would have included the psalm that spoke about this. I've mentioned it several times in prior videos. But there is a psalm which says, the prudent sees danger ahead and hides himself. But the simple-minded go on and suffer for it. The one thing that I wanted to point out about that verse is that whenever we look at Scripture, I talk about types and shadows a lot on this channel. Whenever we talk about Scriptures, there's different levels of meaning with regards to various aspects of Scripture. One of the simplest ways to look at it is that there is a physical or apparent meaning, a literal meaning in the flesh, but then there's also a hidden meaning as well. One of the great examples of this is like circumcision. There is a physical meaning for circumcision, which was circumcision of your flesh for the Israelites, which is to show that you're cutting away the flesh, which profits no one anything really, and you're really circumcising yourself unto God. And the hidden meaning, or the esoteric meaning, is that you are to really circumcise your heart. It's a spiritual matter. We see these two principles really go all throughout Scripture, where there's a literal meaning, and I think in Jewish rabbinic tradition they call that pashat, and then there's a more eschatological hidden meaning. And so as we look at that psalm, which says, a prudent man sees danger and hides himself, and the simple go on and suffer for it, there is a truthful, right, biblical meaning for it in terms of the flesh, and there's a truthful, right, and biblical meaning to it in terms of the spiritual. That, yes, in the flesh, if you're a prudent person and you see this danger on the horizon, you're going to hide yourself. You're going to prepare. You're gonna warn your friends. You're gonna want to keep them out of harm's way. And the simple are just gonna, trudge on through it. But then ultimately, that is just the flesh. But we have to understand there's a spiritual meaning as well, that we're supposed to hide spiritually in the shadow of the Lord, and He is our protector. And so, I just also, want to be balanced. So many people are getting so out of balance with so much stuff that, we don't want to throw away one for the other, or vice versa. Again, it comes back to that question of a lot of people questioning, oh, you're preparing, ye of little faith. No, there's two meanings to most things. And so just be balanced about it. And don't subject yourself to a spirit of fear, which is definitely going on right now. Let me go ahead and switch on over to the screen share, because I wanted to just give you a couple more things. So again, I sort of went off on a tangent, lost a little bit of my train of thought in terms of everything that I was going to speak about thereafter. But I got some tabs here that I wanted to talk through as well. We talked a little bit about the faith issues. Talked a little bit about just the news that has gone out. Oh, personal experiences. That's what I was going to touch on. Personal experiences. So, good news for me. I know a lot of the nation, some people are not so fortunate. So just pray that you may be that fortunate that schools are shutting down. So my children's schools are shut down, so I don't have to worry about this limbo period about what am I going to do with my kids. We have taken them out of a lot of extracurricular activities like swimming, because that's just not a suitable risk at this point in time. My work has been shuttered now. So, I work at a pretty big company. We have over, I think, 95,000 employees globally, but at least in North America, there are about 10,000, and we have been told to work from home. And so, that's another thing that I'm blessed with, that I can work from home. A lot of people, don't have jobs that can do that. So that is difficult, and I ask that you pray for people there as well. But yeah, that's what happened to me. Is I was packing up my office on Thursday, which is a really surreal experience. Lots of people were sort of weirded out about it. But now I've got my home office set up, and so I'm working from home. It'll be the next 3 weeks. Kids are at home. Honestly, I think this thing's going to go on for many more weeks after that. It may even be 2 months or more. And so a lot of you, that's what you're experiencing. I know a lot of people are working from home. A lot of kids staying home. And that's why there were these huge runs on the grocery stores, is because the situation is changing so rapidly, and it's definitely looking a little bit more ominous. Some people still think this is media hype, but I'll tell you what, give it about another week or two. That's it. Give it another week or two, because if you've seen the exponential rate of growth of this virus in Italy and South Korea and China and other places, even Norway shut down their entire country. It's not going to take a long time. Especially, I don't even need to share this. I'm going to switch over here one more time. Especially if you're not really doing anything to halt the progression of this disease, right? There's two major things that you can do to halt this disease. One is you do something draconian like China does, and you just, shut down schools nationwide, and you quarantine entire cities, and then you use the communist police to really lock people up in their homes, create these quarantine centers where no one can leave. I mean, I'm not saying that's good. I'm not recommending that at all. But in terms of being efficient or effective against the disease, you do some form of that, right? Where we are starting to have, sporadic school closures. We don't really have a nationwide school closure, but I heard that it is on the table now. But again, we're holding off. The United States really isn't acting quickly on this, and so it's a little bit of a Swiss cheese issue. We're not taking those draconian measures. Not that I want them. I'm just saying we're not taking them. So there's some holes there. The other thing that you can do is you can take an approach like South Korea, and you just test the heck out of your entire population. Therefore, people that are positive to the disease can actually go and self-quarantine. And we're obviously not doing that as well. I know there's a presidential speech today, and we got Quest Diagnostics and another lab in Roche, and they said that we're all going to have testing. We're going to have drive-through testing labs by this weekend. I'm hesitant. That's all I'll say about that. I'm very hesitant because the last promise was that we would have 1 million tests by the end of the week. And I think we're testing CDC's testing like 77 over the course of like 2 or 3 days. They're getting grilled. If you've seen any of the Senate hearings, they are getting absolutely grilled for why we don't have testing. At least in my own state of Ohio, Mike DeWine, who's the governor, said that, listen, I'm going to reason with you and be honest. We're going to have to do this without testing. I mean, he was flat out. He's like, we don't have tests. And they're actually trying to combine, they're trying to tweak the test to squeeze out as many tests as they possibly can, because they're still in queue for another test kit from the CDC. And it's that bad. And so, yeah, those are the two ways. You either have amazing, abundant testing so that people can self-quarantine and it's more individualized, right? It's not a draconian Chinese sweep. You just let everyone get tested, and you have a compliant. That's another thing we're going to talk about in this show. You have a compliant society. South Koreans are very compliant. When they get the test, they're going into self-quarantine, and that's one way that you stop it. Or you just do this huge draconian sweep, and that's another way to stop it. The U.S. is not really doing either. So you pair up the fact that we're really not doing these things, along with the fact that we're right near that point of an exponential curve where there's going to be some serious growth. And, I'm not trying to be a fearmonger. Again, that's I hope that's not apparent. My style was really just sort of, easy going and just let you guys be aware of the facts and you discern it how you wish. But it's not going to get better by next week. We're at the tip of the iceberg of this thing. And so we just need to be realists and be prudent and, see what we should expect in the future and be abreast on the news and make sure that we know what's coming. So we're not doing either of these things. But Again, I would like to see nationwide school closures. We'll see if that happens or not. But I really would like more testing and do the South Korean model. But even if we were to do the South Korean model, I don't think it's going to work. And actually, I watched an interview with a BBC reporter talking to an epidemiologist, and they were talking about the draconian measures that were done in China. And they said, could England do this? Could the United States do this? Because we're not communists. We're not going to fall in line out of fear to the government. We're a very freedom-loving society where we value our own, do what thou wilt is essentially the type of culture that we've gotten to. Do you really think something like that would happen? And the epidemiologist more or less sort of passed off the question. But I wanted to show you this. I want to show you this article. This is local to me. This is only maybe 30 or 40 minutes up the road. But check this out. This is Dayton Daily News, Dayton, Ohio. So our first school closures were the colleges. So basically, the governor, Mike DeWine, told all colleges in the state that you should close, or not necessarily close, but you should do all your courses online from here on out. Okay. What did the college students do? They had a party. I don't think anyone would expect anything different. So again, schools were closed so that students could have social distancing and not get infected. And what do? Over 1,000 kids just have a huge block party to where the riot police have to come out and break the whole situation up. And so I just really want you guys to think about that on a macro scale. We see in China that there was a lot of resistance to what they've done in terms of the draconian measures. There was pushback. People were getting arrested, people were disappearing, but they were pushing back. And again, that's a very compliant culture. That's a very compliant type of society. We are a very divided nation, especially in politics. There's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to agree with presidential actions or decrees or anything like that. There's already tension in this country. And, I just really am curious that if there are any citywide or statewide type of quarantine measures enacted, how is society going to respond? Because this is a microcosm. This is a microcosm with how society will respond. We know a lot of people are not taking this seriously. If I look at any of my local news stations on Facebook and I just sort of troll through the comments and see what people are writing, I would argue to say greater than 50% are just saying this is, again, only media hype. We've talked about this before. Take the media component out of it and see what governments are doing. Governments have never done these types of things before. Well, actually, I won't say never, maybe not to this scale. 1918, there was a lot of similar things going on with governments. But what the governments are doing is different. Forget about what the media is saying. Look at the numbers. Look at what governments are doing at the expense of loss of business and tax dollars and all sorts of things. It's because there is a legitimate threat. There's a legitimate pandemic. But again, this is just a really sad state of affairs that I really wonder, as a society who does what thou wilt, and just the complete digression of morals and submission to authority. This might be a future. We'll just have to see really how this plays out. So I'm a little pessimistic, but it's just something that we should be aware about. Some of the other things that I want to talk about, more so on the aspect of preparedness, because again, as we started this video, I've been blessed to hear some of the emails where people were able to get supplies because of what I may have said or another person may have said in a YouTube video, and then literally the day or two after, they were all wiped clean. And so let's all just try to keep one step ahead of this thing, so we don't panic, so that we're not fearful, and that we can get some of the things that we need before it's too late. In my last video, I talked about the fact that there is a program called Garment Base Camp, and that you can download it for free on your laptop or your own personal computer. And you can get files from GPS Depot, and you can have Google Maps completely offline, completely detached from the internet, and you just have that on your laptop or have it on some type of electronic device. And that will be good in case A, there's any disruptions to the internet, which I'm going to talk about in this session, or B, I talked about how Google, basically tracks all of our phones, whether you're an Android or an Apple user. They use a technique called geofencing to where they can, see travel patterns and tell you how long your trip is going to be and show you the little red lines on the bar where all the cars are stopped and where you have a traffic jam. They're monitoring all of this. And in some of the Senate hearings, I do believe Google has been called on using some of their geofencing power to see some of these coronavirus cases and see the travel history of where all that person went, so that we can track down everyone and make sure that they're in quarantine or they get tested. That's a good use of it, but still, there is a potential misuse of it as well. Here's an article. A particular cyclist became a suspect when police got his location data from Google. This was just on March 10th, 2020. So basically, this guy was just bicycling along, may have been the only person in the region during this home break-in, and because he was in the vicinity and the police got his Google Map info, he became a suspect in the case. Pretty interesting. So again, two really big reasons why, if you have a means, if you have a laptop, especially, you should try to download that Garmin information just so you have offline maps. It's just a very prudent thing to do. Regarding the internet, and I should have had this article pulled up as well, but I forgot. I can't, this is just anecdotal. I can't say this is going to happen or not happen, but it's just a potential thing. I've seen a lot of articles talking about whether the internet will be strained when or if many people are working from home or are just being at home using the internet for Netflix and all sorts of things because of quarantine measures. Will that shut down the internet? I don't know. I know with a lot of these more major companies, they have been running stress tests, seeing if the networks would shut down because of all the employees going through the virtual privacy networks, the VPNs. There's privacy firewalls in order to get into your secure access within your own company. IT people are definitely running stress tests saying, can it handle it? Because it's an open question. They don't know. And so for the larger internet at large, that's an unknown. Is it going to be strained? Particularly, I have always wondered, if this starts spreading out of control and the news gets bad enough, could the internet just be unplugged just because that's a way of just sort of silencing everyone? And it's because, well, we're all under quarantine and it's because the bandwidth got all used up. That's just a little conspiracy. Maybe nothing will happen. Maybe it will. Who knows? My point is, don't overreact. Be prudent. Do some things. What am I doing? The people in my fellowship, we're talking about, having our, sharing our home locations so that we can put that in our Garmin base camp or, put it somewhere offline in case we need to go to someone's house. Make sure you have other people's phone numbers. Just have some way of getting in contact with those in your fellowship or family and friends outside of Facebook, outside of email, outside of everything on the internet. It's not a tall order. It's actually, a pretty simple thing and a pretty prudent thing to do. But I just wanted to make you aware of a lot of these articles that I'm seeing, and you can Google it yourself. Just look up the virus and internet bandwidth, and you'll just see a whole long list of things. Lots of people talking about it. Let's see. Some of the other news that I've seen in Drudge Report, again, talking about the potential quarantines. 6 states now have National Guard activated. And so that's pretty good. Right now, they're providing real benefit to the communities at large. But I really wonder when we start getting into these more significant numbers. And as I mentioned, we're not doing those two steps, those two big things, draconian clean sweep like China, or absolutely insane amount of tests. We're doing neither of those. The cases are going to rise. And we have history to show through Italy, China, South Korea, Norway, France, Spain. It's a repeating theme. It's not really a question of when, it's just a question of if. When we get to those numbers, what is the National Guard going to do? I don't know. You can look at Hurricane Katrina or other events to see what happened. And then lastly here, just what I talked about earlier. There is a shutdown that's on the table. And you're talking about how this crisis may be two months. And so, I wonder, with how we've been groomed as a society and in our culture of doing what thou wilt, and really straying from God's word and straying away from morality and a lot of these things. Are we going to be able to handle that? I don't know. And so, just stay ahead of things and be prepared so that you don't get into a panic situation like I've seen so many people that I know that are Christian, and just their faces were pale as I talked to them. I told you the last video, I had Christians calling me panicking, literal panic, calling me at 8 p.m. at night saying, I need to know who all your survival food purchasing companies are. Like, who do you shop with? Because I need to know. And I'm like, it's way too late. Go to Costco, go to Kroger's or whatever. It's way too late for that. And so you don't want to get into that point. You just don't. So again, the grocery stores are pretty much cleaned out. I did see some of my friends in Hawaii, and they know Hawaii is not in a good place. One of my friends shared an anecdotal report based on a small business owner saying that their food shipments are not coming anytime soon. I don't know about that for sure, but the island has faced struggle before. Her name's Cheryl. Actually, the funny thing is, okay, why is the world, or really, why is the United States freaking out about toilet paper? She gave me a little bit of history on this. So again, when coronavirus started happening, Hawaii, there was some major mainstream media articles about how Hawaii was rationing toilet paper. That article went viral. And so the mainland in the U.S. took that, spread the news, and so this is typical mainstream media panic. Spread the news, and everyone on the mainland started buying toilet paper. That was the reason. It was because Hawaii was rationing it out, mainstream media ran with it, and then everyone just started freaking out and reacting. What I came to know is, because things take a long time to get Hawaii, everything's got to get shipped into Hawaii. The island has faced issues. I think it was in the 40s and the 70s. Whatever the issues were, they weren't able to get supplies, including toilet paper. And so when the residents on the island foresee a crisis coming up, they know exactly what to do. I mean, their spidey senses tingle when they're like, okay, we got to get toilet paper and everything else. She said that she stores, always 100 to 200 rolls, on hand at all time. And so that is just literally the way of life there. But again, if you've ever been wondering where the heck this teepee thing came out of, it was because Hawaii was reacting prudently because of their isolation out on that island. They were acting prudently, and then mainstream media just completely, hyped it up. So that is, definitive example of where mainstream media hyped something up, and we really shouldn't have seen, toilet paper be the first thing that people tried to get here in the mainland, here in the States. Now, I do suspect some of this will start to come back, but again, you just don't want to have to be in that position. So what are the next things? I mentioned we want to stay ahead, one step ahead of things. Hopefully, you got yourself some masks. Hopefully, you got some disinfectant stuff. Hopefully, you've got yourself some food. Well, what else do I think are potential next things to go? One, as I watched some of the citizen journaling out of China, at least with what came out of China, some people were afraid that they could not leave Wuhan or other areas because the gas stations were shut down. Will gas stations shut down here in the States? I don't know. However, it's just a thing that you should always have on hand. Make sure you top off your gas tanks. And if you have the means, have a couple 5-gallon jugs on hand. That's one of the things that I did. There's not currently a run on gas, but there's a lot of instability with the gas markets. Crude oil plunged. You maybe heard President Trump's speech today where he was trying to prop up the oil price by buying however many millions of barrels of oil into our strategic reserves. Again, just trying to prop up the price. There is instability with gasoline and with crude oil and everything like that. And based on what we've seen out of China and people fearing that they couldn't even make it to the airport or even get out because they didn't have gas, that's something you should think about. There's currently no run on gasoline. That's good. We just want to casually, get the gas that we need and just have it for a rainy day just in case. And if it doesn't come, we can use the gas anyways. It's fine. The other thing is two more things, actually. Bank runs. We've seen this in 2008 with Greece. One of the things that I think a lot of people are getting more concerned over than the virus itself is just the economy. Again, if you look in China, there's people that just haven't been paid a wage because they've been in quarantine for 2 months. There's a lot of small businesses and mid-sized businesses shutting down. There's a lot of large businesses that are laying off employees. This is going to have a dramatic effect on the economy. Don't trust the market. Today I think it went up like 8%, something crazy. If you look at the market instead of Main Street, right? If you look at the market for your sense of security and you're saying, hey, great, everything's on the rise again. It's a false sense of security, because one of the things you need to look at with the market is instability. We had the largest drop of all time. What was it, yesterday? And now the largest gain of all time. Those are not good signs. This whole thing, that's not good. That just represents a lot of turbulence. Turbulence is not a good thing. So bank runs could be a thing. One of the little buckets of being prepared that I mentioned, always have your little buckets of things that you want to go out: food, air, water, shelter, et cetera, et cetera. Finances is one of them. You should make sure that you have some cash on hand, just in case. What if there is a quarantine? Are the banks going to be open or not? I don't know. That's something I don't know about China. I don't know if the banks were open or shuttered in Wuhan. I know people are running out of money, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether they'll be shuttered or not, and so you should make sure you have some cash on hand. Some examples of how much cash you should have on hand is anywhere from 3 to 6 months, excluding your mortgage or rent. And so just think about, what you spend on your essentials in any given month, and just try to have some of that cash on hand. Now we could get into finances and gold and silver and all sorts of stuff like that, but I don't really want to dwell on that, because again, I just want to do a prudent thing. I'm not suggesting you guys start investing in all sorts of things like that, but just have a little bit of cash on hand. That's a prudent thing to do. And lastly, just as we close this session, and maybe I'll look and see if you guys want to start asking any questions. I'll just take a peep here in the chat room. Lastly, talking about quarantines, potential quarantines, and whether they happen on a county, state, or nationwide level. They're going to happen. At some level, they're going to happen. People will be impacted. Really think about what that means, right? Grocery stores may remain open. Some other essential services, I probably can't name them all off the top of my head, might remain open. Maybe post offices, maybe shipping. I don't know. But definitely pharmacies and groceries should remain open. Hospitals obviously will remain open, but other things like, are the banks going to be open? Are the gas stations going to be open? is the Postal Service going to be running? And as you think about each one of those sectors, think about it as it applies to, is there something that I need that I haven't gotten yet? So think about non-essential stores that might have things for preparedness that you may not have gotten to yet. I don't really support Dick's Sporting Goods because of their liberal agenda, but they do have a lot of outdoor supplies, Cabela's, Field and Stream, these types of things. Those are non-essential stores. Let me repeat, those are non-essential stores. If those are shut down by state order or by national order, only pharmacies, groceries, hospitals, things of that nature, think about that. There goes, you were thinking about buying this or that. There goes your opportunity. And so again, I really want to be careful. We always want to be balanced with this. I am not suggesting that people start just spending large volumes of money thinking that this is it and you're wiping out your bank accounts. And you should know me by now that is not what I'm suggesting at all. What I am suggesting, again, being very redundant with this word, be prudent with your finances and what money you have, as well as not giving in to a spirit of fear, again, like hoarding and things like that. But think about the possibility, as we've seen in Italy, in China, some of these countries that have been hit hardest. Think about if there was a quarantine of your entire city, recognize non-essential stores will be shut down. If you're accustomed to Amazon, who knows? Maybe they won't be shipping, and so you thought maybe you could get a 2-day delivery, and it's not there anymore. Here's a good example, just came to mind. I looked up an article today, and I wish I could actually, while I have you guys here before we, and again, if you have any questions, please do put them in right now because I will check after I show you guys this thing here. I saw, at least here locally, that people had anticipated that they would use here we go, let me just pause this here and I'll show you guys. Just close out a couple windows here before I end up sharing my screen. All right. Close out these a little bit here. All right, I'm ready to share. Check this out. Wow, ordering groceries online may not always be easier. Many people decided to order online, thinking that was a smart move in terms of getting their groceries. So I mean, just check this out. Here's the line of one of these Kroger grocery stores, and people are so accustomed to using the order online and check out that it's always going to be there. It's always going to be there. And turns out, it was still there, but you had to face super long lines. And so we don't really get out of that comfort zone and say, I always order off of Amazon. It'll always be there. Again, we don't know. The situation is highly volatile. Just very highly volatile. And so we all just need to make personal decisions in terms of how best to be prepared. And again, not end up in this situation.
Please, guys, everybody.
Craziness. This guy, poor guy, he's like breathing heavily because he's like, I don't want anything to do with this. This is not what we're going to succumb to. And if we yield to those, the little voice in our head saying, be prudent and be prepared, we're never going to get there. So let me go ahead and check the comments, see if anyone has any big questions. I might just take 2 or 3 because I think we're already, what time am I at? We're almost at an hour here, 45 minutes. So I'll just take a couple here. Let me just look here. Do I think the Antichrist is here and alive today? I am not sure. But outside of this whole virus situation, there's a lot of things going on. Lots of people are starting to say the seals are now being opened and everything like that. I'll tell you what, this is a big thing. Is it the seals being open? I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I've been doing this online here for since late 2014 is when I did YouTube. I think I was doing it earlier 2014 when I was just doing blogging. And me and a whole bunch of other people have been warning for quite some time, especially with the markets. We had the 2008 market collapse, and then we saw quantitative easing and the Fed sort of boosting this whole thing up. We said, you know what? When this whole cookie crumbles, it sort of all has to come down at once. Everything is so interconnected. It's just a domino effect. And we were looking for what's called a black swan. What is that black swan event? Something completely unpredictable, out of left field, never even saw it coming. What is the black field that hits the first domino and then everything starts to fall? It has to be something big. This event, to me, is definitively a black swan. It revealed the interdependency of so many things. We have India, who manufactures many of our active pharmaceutical ingredients. They got all their intermediates from China. And because China was shuttered down, then India said, we're no longer shipping our pharmaceutical actives and we're keeping them for national security. And now we have the threat here in the US and other countries of not having medicines. Same thing with a lot of the supplies. There are going to be supply shortages because this is going to have a ripple effect with regards to China. It is a domino effect. And so, again, I really think this is a black swan event. I think that this is so big of an event, and it's hit so many different segments of society that I would be hard pressed to see things just suddenly go back to normal, and then we're in a new decade talking about this later on down the line. I do believe we're the terminal generation. I played the timeline game at the beginning of my walk, and it turned out to be an embarrassment. I'm not going down that road again, but this is a serious inflection point. That's what I'll say about that. And just so we have to, keep our eyes and ears open. Let's see, 2 more questions. There's some questions about mortality rates. I will, if I don't see any questions that might, let me address this, because there's a common theme with a lot of questions here. People are asking about whether this or that is fake, and just talking about vaccines and what do I think about that agenda, and so on and so forth. We talked about this last video, where people are taking very strong polar opinions on one side or the other. Okay, so saying it's not really a virus, it's 5G. It's not really a virus, it's the vaccines you have to be worried about. It's not really a bad virus, it's just to dethrone Trump. It's not, keep the list going. There's just got to be at least 15 different opinions of it's really nothing bad. It's this or that, X, Y, or Z. I see a lot of stuff that is truthful about the X, Ys, and Zs, but I don't discount the fact that this is a legitimate pandemic. I do see vaccines as being a threat. Many of you know I did videos on vaccines prior. Are we going to get to that state of global vaccinate? It's a threat. It's a threat. I don't know what that looks like. We just have to wait and see. But the threat's there. Some people talking about the mortality rates not being, factual. Even with the mortality rates that they're giving us, like WHO said 3.4%, there's been some people that have just run through the numbers saying that, okay, well, if you take the infection rate, which is anywhere from, it's an R0 value, which is anywhere from 4 to 7, that means if someone's infected by the virus, you're going to infect, on average, 4 to 7 people. Keep in mind the flu infection rate is 1.3. 1.3 versus 4 to 7. So that's the infection rate. Mortality rate, I believe flu was somewhere in the 0.1, 0.2%. This one says a 3.4%. And they said about 10% of cases, or if you look at Italy, 5, 10, 15% of cases end up needing serious or critical interventions, which means intubation, oxygen, ventilation. And if you don't get those, it's not a good thing. Even if you use those numbers alone and apply that to the probability of how many people will contract the virus in any given country, the numbers are not good. Again, we covered that Australian survey that was put out just saying that the numbers in terms of global mortalities could be anywhere from, I think I forget the numbers. The high number was about 68 million. And the low number, I think, was about 15 million. Oddly enough, Event 201 with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, that had a coronavirus, practice run in October, and their number was 65 million. So go figure on that one. By the way, Bill Gates just removed himself from the Microsoft board because he wants to pursue his philanthropy and his doing good unto the world. Something's really off with all that. But again, there's all these competing things where people are trying to discount the main event and say it's something else, and it's just not. It's multiple crises, crisis within a crisis. I do want to say just one last thing. A lot of people are not going to like this, but I'm sorry. I don't understand. I really just don't understand. It's the whole Q anonymous thing and Trump. And that this whole thing is playing by or to his advantage. Listen, I'm conservative fiscally. I'm conservative morally. I'm a Christian by my fruits, hopefully, as you can tell with a lot of my ministry teachings and how I've tried to edify the body and do everything that God has put on my heart. I'm conservative, I think, end to end. I don't necessarily identify with Republican or Democrat, but if I had to choose, it'd be Republican. Honestly, I'd much rather be like just independent and just not have to get into it at all. And so again, I don't really have skin in the game coming into politics. That being said, I am seeing so many people say that Trump is against the elites. Trump is against the globalists. He's going to take them down. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. The evangelists are saying it as well. It starts to get into this new apostolic reformation, 7 mountains type thing where he's the one he's going to change things around. He's going to break down the new world order. And the most extreme position that I've seen is that this virus was released just to take down Trump and prevent his reelection. So let me just verbalize this for you. Trump is going after the New World Order. Trump is going after the elites. He's going to deconstruct the whole thing, and he's a threat. Therefore, we are going to design a biological entity that is going to be released on top of the entire world. We're going to infect or kill thousands or millions, and it's going to shutter small, mid, and large businesses, crash the economy, crash the stock market, even infect world leaders, government officials, and world leaders. Just completely, destroy the world just so he doesn't get reelected. If I was Trump and I heard that was the plan, I would be blushing that people care that much about me to do that extravagant of a plan. When in the past with John F. Kennedy, it was as simple as getting a patsy with a gun and just, not trying to be morbid, but why would we think of that huge, elaborate plan just so he doesn't get reelected? You think it could be something a lot easier. If you believe the storyline that we're fed with the Las Vegas incident, that shooting over there where a lone person was able to carry in all that ammo and all those guns by himself and do what happened, you think that the global elites would have some more efficient way to depose Trump and make sure he doesn't get elected. But again, there are people so focused on Trump as being some type of worldly savior that it concerns me. really concerns me. I just don't get it. I know people that I'm in close fellowship with feel the same way. That this whole thing, the whole global pandemic, and all the different countries and medias, it's all only against Trump, which it just sounds really extreme to me. And just it worries me because of how pervasive it is. Again, with people that I'm in most close fellowship with, they're seeing this daily, and it's just worrisome. Now, again, I'm not saying everything that Trump is doing is bad. We are to pray for our leaders, but the one thing that I just want to communicate is pray for him, pray for his salvation. We're supposed to pray that we can have leaders that allow us to lead peaceful lives, not under persecution. And so if he continues to do things where we can live in peace, that's great. The one thing that I want people listening to know is that while we pray for his salvation, we hope that he be saved, he does not bear the fruits of a Christian, especially with all the false prophets that he surrounds himself with, and with the praises that he gets from a lot of like elite Zionists and the Sanhedrin and things like that. It's very worrisome to me. And so I don't want people to praise him as some type of worldly / religious spiritual figure. I very much see it as a deception, as I've said in some of my prior videos. If you're a new subscriber, you might be turned off by this, but if you're a longtime subscriber, you'll exactly know what my position is on the matter. So that's sort of what I'm seeing in the news. We are, right at about an hour here. So again, I just pray with some of the things that I've just mentioned to you, that you can be blessed by it, so that it can tamp down any fear that you have what you need, and you praise God for it. Again, whether we live or whether we die, what our faith dictates, as long as we're praising God for what we have the means to do and do itself, we're praising God. To him be all the glory. And so I hope this helped you. Hope this blessed you. I'm sure that the news will just be coming in steady stream, faster than we can drink it over the weekend, and especially into next week. And I'll just try to do my best to keep you guys abreast on the situation. And also, this weekend I'm going to work on some of my other ministry videos to help tie into the situation. Actually, what I think my next one is going to be, and I touched on this quite a while ago, is just talking about the family unit and headship, talking about what godly submission means, what head of household or headship means, and how it applies to this situation. Because we are going to get into very tense times. And I think that, if you're a believer and your household is of believers, that you really need to have that headship tree that's spoken in the Bible. You need to rely on that, because you don't want to be in a situation where, the situation is already tense. There's a lot of things going on. Decisions need to be made. You really need to have that headship in order. So I think that's what I'm going to finish up this weekend. And that will be, again, sort of dovetailing back into some of the ministry teachings. And we'll get into that maybe sometime this weekend. So God bless you all. And until next video, see ya. This is Mike with On Point Preparedness.